Good morning. Welcome to our webinar, More Information on the Short Sale Option. The webinar today will be hosted by myself, Sherry Davidson, Dottie Lay, and Cindy Vaughn. Our first webinar discussed why to avoid foreclosure. Our second webinar focused on how to avoid foreclosure. And today we will explore short sales in more detail. I am Sherry Davidson, President of Davidson Realty. I am a certified distressed property expert. About half of our company transactions right now involve distressed properties such as foreclosures or short sales. If you're not familiar with Davidson Realty, we're located inside World Golf Village in St. Augustine, Florida. We have approximately 25 agents, and we have been selling property in northern St. Johns County in the Jacksonville area for 20 years. Our next host this morning is Dottie Lay. Dottie is an agent with Davidson Realty. She is also a certified distressed property expert. This is a designation awarded after extensive study of how to help homeowners. There's ongoing training through monthly conference calls and forums to make sure that the designees are up to date on all the issues with distressed properties. Dottie is extremely knowledgeable about short sales and foreclosure transactions. Our third host this morning is Cindy Vaughn. Cindy has been with the Davidson Companies for many years, working in all areas of accounting and finance. Cindy is also a certified distressed property expert. We actually have 25 certified distressed property experts in our company. Cindy is our in-house short sale coordinator who deals directly with the lenders to get our short sales to closings. We will begin with Dottie Lay this morning.
Thank you, Sherry, and good morning, everyone. In our last webinar, Susie Evans, one of our agents that is certified with Davidson, covered in depth the solutions for homeowners facing foreclosure. I just kind of wanted to recap these 9 solutions just so it's fresh in our minds again. The reinstatement process, if the reason for distress was temporary and was resolved, however, you must be able to pay all of the payments and any late fees that are due. That's one option. The second one would be forbearance or repayment plan. If the reason for distress was temporary and resolved, requires lender approval, and you may be allowed to make your back payments over time. But, very important, you cannot falter, you cannot pay late, or miss a payment, because if you do, you'll end up in the same state of the foreclosure process you were in previously. You can also sell the property. If you have equity, you can sell and cure the foreclosure. You can rent the property. You have to ask yourself, can I rent the property for the mortgage, insurance, taxes, and homeowner fees if there are any? Then there's always refinance. Only if you have sufficient equity and a strong credit score can you refinance. Mortgage modifications, we hear a lot about those. Requires lender cooperation, and you'll have to qualify with financial information, most of the time like a full documentation loan. Deed in lieu of foreclosure. You will sign the deed over to the bank rather than go through the foreclosure process, and at the end of the day, it may still be reported on your credit as a foreclosure. They call this a friendly foreclosure. Then there's bankruptcy. It will only stall a foreclosure. It will not eliminate the mortgage. Now we come to the short sale. A short sale can be negotiated if the homeowner has financial hardship, monthly shortfall on financial worksheet, does not have significant assets to assist in paying down the mortgage. At this time, as a homeowner, you're beginning to experience many different emotions. I have found that all of the solutions I just spoke about does not address what I call the human factor, or where you are with your emotional stability. You have always been a person who pays their bills on time, you have a great credit score, and you bought the American dream, your home. Now hardships have set in, and you begin the grieving process. But grief is, in actuality, a healing process. The 5 stages of grief are, first one is denial and isolation. At first, we tend to deny the loss that has taken place. And the second one is anger. And I have seen some angry homeowners since we started these short sale processes. So generally, you may be angry with yourself for letting the event take place, even if, realistically, nothing could have stopped it. Then you bargain, and I think we've all done this. Now the grieving person may make bargains with God, asking, if I do this, will you take away this loss? Then depression sets in. You feel numb, although anger and sadness may remain underneath. Finally, you get to the acceptance stage. This is when the anger, sadness, and mourning have tapered off. You simply accept the reality of your situation or loss. During grief, it is common to have many conflicting feelings: sorrow, anger, loneliness, sadness, shame, anxiety, and guilt often accompany serious losses. Having so many strong feelings can be very stressful. Grieving and its stresses pass more quickly with good self-care habits. It helps to have a close circle of family or friends. I purposely wanted to talk about the grieving process because by the time you have recognized and faced your hardship and have now decided to short sale your property, you pick up the phone and call your certified distressed property expert realtor to list your home for sale. The single most important person for a distressed homeowner to consult with is an educated real estate agent. We meet, and very quickly we recognize where you are in your grief. So now we know how to move forward to relieve your fears of the short sale process. The definition of a short sale is a homeowner is short when a borrower owes an amount on his property that, when combined with closing costs and commissions, is higher than the current market value. Let's talk now about listing your home. Pricing a short sale and the subsequent pricing reductions are the single most important factor in getting a contract and having your short sale approved by your lender. The reality is the short sale probably needs to be the lowest comparable property in the neighborhood. We look at what is and isn't selling and the number of days on the market. Of course, we must consider the time left before foreclosure. The foreclosure process takes about 180 days in Florida. So questions must be asked of the homeowner. Are you current on your mortgage? Or when did you make your last mortgage payment? Now we have to see how many days in this market will your home sit before an offer comes in. This is where time determines price. All of these considerations are for us to monitor your property closely and adjust accordingly. Regardless of what we determine the initial price of a property is, when we need to monitor the area and the showings closely to determine if a reduction is needed. With most short sales, it is suggested that we include your first 3 price reductions in our listing agreement. During the listing process, or during the listing period, if possible, stay in the property. Don't move. Take care of the property inside and out so we can get the highest price possible, keeping your deficiency as low as possible. And Sherry will address the deficiency in the next segment. Now, a buyer comes along, makes an offer. Remember, you're still the owner of the property, so we make sure we sit down together, we look over the offer, we check our timeline, very important here, we are working in, and either accept or counter back to what we think the bank will approve as a short sale. Now we have an executed contract. At this point, I'd like to turn the program over to Cindy Vaughn, who is our inside processor, and will begin working directly with your lender. Cindy?
Thank you, Dottie, and good morning, everyone. Each bank has their own guidelines for the submission of a short sale, along with their own procedures for processing them, and the length of time to do so varies. You might want to initially check out your bank's website to see a list of the items that are needed. Through our experience, we find that the following is a pretty complete list of items needed. Excuse me. The authorization to release information. This form authorizes the bank to speak with Davidson Realty regarding your loan. This is one of the most important and first forms that you need to fill out and give to your agent, since that begins our communication with the bank. We fax it into them right away and then call them to confirm that they received it, and let them know that we are waiting on an offer on your home, and as soon as we get it, we will be submitting a package for short sale. It is also important to note that when you fill out this authorization that you list any additional lines of credit which you might have, as well as the Homeowners Association. We have to begin dealing with them right away, oftentimes, to have liens released. The second item that you're going to need to have is the hardship letter. This letter must come from the homeowner and should state their case to the bank as to why they qualify for a short sale consideration. The third item is the preliminary closing statement, or HUD. Once we have an offer on the property, this will be prepared by the title company, which will show the bank their estimated net. The fourth item is the purchase and sale contract. This will be written by your agent and will include a short sale disclosure form. The next item is the listing agreement. This is the signed agreement which you have with Davidson Realty outlining the listing of your property. The financial worksheet. As certified distressed property experts, we have a form which your agent will provide you with initially. In some cases, though, the mortgage company that you have might require that you use their form. We have guidelines which we have formed for each bank and know what they require. You're also going to need 2 most recent bank statements, 2 most recent pay stubs, and 2 most recent tax returns. We have found that the sooner you begin this process, the better. If you know that you can no longer afford your mortgage, don't allow yourself to get so far behind that we do not have time to get a contract on your property. The bank will not stop foreclosure proceedings unless there is a valid offer on the property, no matter how much communication that we give to them telling them what we're trying to do. However, we provide weekly communication on your behalf with them. Another reason not to let it get too far behind before contacting us is that if you have a second mortgage, they have been turning these over to third-party collection companies. These companies complicate the short sale process and can delay it significantly. Each month that goes by without closing, they raise their accepted payoff amount. It really complicates things. Once we have a short sale package put together and an offer on the property, we fax the package to the bank and begin following up on receipt with them the very next day. As I mentioned earlier, each bank has its own process. With Bank of America, for example, their process is once they receive the short sale package, they order what is called a BPO, or a broker's price opinion. This is an independent company which will give the bank an idea of what other comparable homes in your area have sold for. The short sale will go through 3 phases of negotiators with Bank of America. The first one will look and make sure that the BPO has come back in line with the offer on the property. They'll then pass it on to the phase 2 negotiator, who will go through the preliminary HUD and make sure that the costs reflected on it are valid. There are no padded fees. Closing costs are in line, commissions are in line, and the HOA fees. Once approval has been received from the investor, it goes to what is called a closing negotiator. From there, it moves pretty quickly. A letter is sent out to us accepting the offer with their stipulations and a time frame to close the transactions. We've had approvals in as little as 1 day, very rare, and some that have taken up to 2.5 months. We have an example or 2 examples of some acceptance letters that we've received from banks. The first one would be EMC Mortgage. EMC Mortgage's letter is a little bit more friendly. They state that that it's paid in full and they will not seek a deficiency judgment. They do, by right, have up to 5 years to do so. In Bank of America's, they say that they might seek a deficiency judgment, and that they also have the right to have a promissory note be signed. In our experience, we haven't seen them require anyone to do so. And also, they can say that it's been paid in full completion at the end of the transaction. We realize that this is a very stressful time for the homeowner, and it can sometimes be a lengthy process. Therefore, we give weekly updates as to where we stand with the bank, even if it is to just say that there's been no change in the status. In our experience with processing these short sales, we have found that these banks are overloaded and inundated with calls, and if you appreciate their dilemma as well as effectively present the hardship of the homeowner, stress the need for an equitable settlement, they will work with you.